Books are powerful tools that help children make sense of their difficult emotions. By teaching children emotional literacy, we can start creating the foundations of self-awareness. Today I'm going to share some of our favorite books that not only introduce an emotion to a child, but also provide some positive coping mechanisms and solutions. All emotions actually serve a purpose. Worry and anxiety is actually our body's way of protecting us from danger, and feeling that feeling is completely normal. However, fear and anxiety starts becoming an issue when it starts preventing us from being able to engage with the world around us. One of the things that I'm learning about anxiety that applies to children as well as grown adults and really anyone in between is when we are going through the emotional state of feeling anxious, our body releases chemicals in the brain that end up shutting down the prefrontal cortex. That means that the prefrontal cortex is actually the logical part of our brain. It creates a freeze response where we're not able to think and act logically. That means when we engage with somebody who's extremely anxious or extremely worried about something, and we, with all good intention, tell them that there's nothing to worry about, this actually doesn't register in their brain. Their body's going through an emotional state, which means that it is not just in their mind, but there's an actual physical occurrence that's taking place in their body. So this is the same thing that really small children go through when they are feeling anxious and worried. They might be scared of a dog or crossing the street or the simplest things such as attending school for the first time. It might be very logical for us that there's nothing to worry about. It's not a big deal. But actually, a lot of child psychologists are saying is when we start telling children there's nothing to worry about, which is coming from a good place, we're trying to reassure them. What we're actually doing is counterproductive, meaning that we are reassuring them that what they're feeling through is not significant and it doesn't matter. So the key recommendation from a lot of behaviorologists is being able to help children process the emotion and being able to manage it. One management method is to help children personify their worry and anxiety as a character that's outside of themselves that they can learn how to tame. And today I have two great books that do exactly that. So the first book is called Me and My Fear. This is a book that's about a girl who moves to a new country, and as everything is brand new and every experience to her is foreign and unknown, her fear ends up growing bigger and bigger throughout the story. So one of the things that's really key in this story is not only does it introduce children to the idea that everybody has fear, but it's usually unknown experiences and new things that we haven't really interacted with before that sometimes cause a lot of our fear and anxiety. Because when we have done something numerous times or something is in a pattern or something that we always expect and are familiar with, we're less likely to feel anxious about it. So it's usually the introduction of new things or foreign things to us that end up starting to trigger worry and anxiety. With this girl, as she's interacting with the world around her, her fear ends up getting bigger and bigger because she keeps on bumping against new and foreign things. She's in a new country, she doesn't understand the language. She doesn't know the people, and everything is brand new to her. The idea that as her fear is starting to get bigger and bigger, it's starting to affect other places of her life. So one example is that she talks about that no one here understands me. And so you can see on this side here, her fear is really, really big at this point. The fact that she is actually pushing away her food, so she's losing her sense of appetite. The fact that she doesn't want to eat because her fear has gotten such a great hold of her. Fear is so big, it's preventing her from getting sleep. Like, she's constantly worried about what's going on at night. And one of the other topics that's in here that I think is really important that us as parents and caretakers should be really aware of is something that I'm seeing not just in these stories, But also, as I'm seeing within social media and Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and you actually hear kids talking about how they're being bullied at school. One of their biggest fears is the fact that they feel that nobody likes them, that they're not accepted. And that's exactly what this girl is going through. She's in a new country, and she talks about how she feels more lonely every single day. And she says, fear says it's because no one likes me. Human connection and human relationships are so integral to our health and well-being that sometimes fear and anxiety, being able to meet other people, is not just a problem with children, but it's also a problem with adults. So I think being able to tackle it with children through stories like this is incredibly important. So the story does continue to say that well, I don't like it here, so she definitely doesn't like it. She's really withdrawn from the environment around her, until a boy in her class wants to show her something. So what I love about this book is the fact that she doesn't speak the same language, but it's the idea of an act of kindness that actually helps her to warm up to somebody in her class. And so they begin to paint together. They get to know each other a lot better. She ends up having somebody to play with at school and during recess. And actually, not only does she discover that the boy himself has a lot of fear as well, so she feels like, hey, I'm not the only one. But throughout all these interactions, and as she starts learning about the environment about her, and she starts feeling much more comfortable knowing that she's starting to make a friend, her fear actually ends up shrinking. And sometimes we have thoughts and we feel anxious and we feel fear about something, but when we do little things that push ourselves out of our comfort zone, sometimes we can overcome that fear, and our fear ends up going away. So the second book that I have that I absolutely love is called Worry Says What. It also introduces the idea that worry is a monster that is outside of us, and it's something that can be controlled and tamed. This girl basically has a worry monster who is camping out in her brain. He's starting to make a little fire and a little tent. So it starts introducing the idea to kids that worry is something that literally lives in our head. And this is a very great visual concept around that. And so as she is going and interacting through her day, worry is basically talking to her. So worry is making her feel something, like her heart is pounding really hard because she's in class. She's taking a test. She's really nervous. Sometimes he talks to her in whispers, and sometimes he talks to her in really, really loud ways to the point that she can't hear anything else. One of the other things is that the worry monster actually tells her very negative things. That this test is really hard and that she can't do it. She'll never get it right. And it introduces the things that we say to ourselves through our worry and our anxiety that actually puts us down. And so there's an example here how she doesn't finish the test because she doesn't think she's good enough. The worry monster actually ends up controlling every single thing in her life, which I think is a really important factor that we can also reflect on as adults. How much of even our adult life where fear and worry are controlling what we can and can't do. So she talks about how the next day I get up and instead of waiting for worry to talk to me, I start talking to worry. As I walk to school, I tell worry it's time for him to go. Every time he tries to talk to me, I ignore him. In a voice clear and loud, I tell myself what is true. So the idea here is that a lot of the voices that are in our head, so anxiety and worry, are not always really based on facts. The fact that other children might not like you and that you don't have any friends is actually not true. Psychologists talk about being able to reframe things for our children. So if a child is feeling anxious at school that they have no friends, it's the idea to be able to talk to them about, well, you have this and this friends, so I believe that you do have some friends. So it's being able for the child to be able to think about what they do have versus what they don't have, and being able to start working from there. So then this little girl continues by basically positively reinforcing her thoughts, where even though worry is telling her really negative things, she's going ahead and she's flipping them. So she goes and tells, when she walks into math class, she says to herself, I can do hard things. And it gives the example that she raises her hand when the teacher asks for her to basically to take the risk, go in front of class, and be able to answer the really hard math question that nobody has been able to crack. And that's the idea that when we are feeling worried and anxious, one way to start overcoming those feelings is to start pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone. And that's exactly what this little girl is doing in the story. She also goes out to recess and she reaffirms to herself, I have lots of friends. So once again, reinforcing the positive things that she's telling herself with actual behaviors. So this book does a really fantastic job in being able to introduce children how to process worry and anxiety. So the first bit is about noticing our thoughts and what are our thoughts telling us? Are they telling us negative things that we can't do? So being able to build up that self-awareness and being able to catch those thoughts. So the second piece, once we're self-aware about the negative talk, is to actually start challenging our negative thoughts. So teaching children about the idea of, is it really truly true that you have no friends? Share with me, who are you friends outside of school with? So it's the idea of being able to reframe certain things and start to help them think through what are ways that they can end up being able to flip that negative thought into something that's much more tangible and positive. And then the third one is helping our children to take small steps to push them out of their comfort zones. I know if there's something big and scary happening, taking that huge leap of faith when we're feeling anxious or worried about something. So the idea of, I've never spoken in front of a group of people or on a stage, going from that feeling to then being able to present to thousands of people, somebody being able to do that, would be a really huge leap of faith. However, small steps could be such as introducing being able to speak from one-on-one to maybe two people, to building it up slowly. And that is the same approach that we can take with children. What are small things that we can help and guide our child to do that start pushing them out of their comfort zone? They might feel like they can't do something right now, or that something is not true right now, but helping them understand that we're always in full control to be able to change our situation. The other thing I wanted to mention about anxiety and worry that isn't really stated in these children's books, that psychologists and scientists that have basically unveiled, is that the feeling of anxiety, that emotional state, is actually very closely correlated with the emotion of excitement. So one hack that a lot of top performers, people who speak on really big grand stages, that are on television, that are filming movies, they get nervous as well. People who host award shows, they're extremely nervous. But one way that they are able to hack their brain is, instead of telling themselves like, I'm nervous, I can't do this, they basically start telling themselves, I am so excited to be able to do this, because your brain doesn't know the difference. So that is also one way that these books don't talk about, but could be a really great way to start introducing that to children. So for instance, let's say it's the first day of school and your child is really nervous, they're going to a new school, they don't know anybody. It could potentially be an opportunity to start helping children reframe of like, let's start thinking about all the exciting things we're gonna be able to do as we go to this new school. Wouldn't it be exciting to know that we're gonna meet new people and we're gonna learn new things, and so on and so on. So one other aspects of helping our children deal with worry and anxiety is, as adults, being able to model for them and being able to share with them how we ourselves deal with our own fears and anxieties. So in the example of maybe there's something tough that you are facing, like you need to have a very important conversation with somebody that you work with, or there's something that is happening in your own personal life that you actually feel really scared and anxious about. Being able to share with children what it is that we're going through, but then being able to model for them that even though I'm scared, even though I'm a little freaked out about what the outcome is going to be, I'm actually going to go ahead and do it anyways. So pushing ourselves out of our own comfort zones to be able to show children that no matter what it is that we're facing with, we have the power to be able to be in control and to change the situations that we're with, that we should not be beholden to our own fears and anxieties. So before I finish this video, I wanted to ask you is, what is your fear monster telling you? How can you push yourself just gently and do that small step even today to be able to start pushing yourselves out of that comfort zone and being able to overcome your worry monster? If you've enjoyed this video, I actually have created a playlist on my channel that tackles all the different challenging emotions that children go through, from anger to sadness to what today's video was about, which is anxiety and worry. So if you're interested in other emotions and learning about different books that introduce emotion and coping mechanisms, go to my channel and check that out. And I will see you in the next video.